I wanted to be work optional so that I had the freedom to retire as soon as possible whenever I wanted. So if you are feeling behind or starting late, growth is your friend. My name is Malika. I achieved FIRE and retired early. I started out by following the traditional advice that most of you all probably follow. I contributed 10% to my 401k and accepted the idea that I would have to work until my 50s or 60s. As I unintentionally became a part of this personal finance community online, I discovered the FIRE movement. And that is when the early retirement seed was planted in my head. And I started treating investing like a game. So I will tell you exactly what I did from that moment, the exact steps that I followed to reach financial independence and eventually retire early. So if you want to meet your goal quickly, you will have to invest $500 per month. Now you might be wondering, girl, where am I supposed to get an extra $500 a month to invest? I'm glad you asked. The second thing I did on my aggressive wealth building journey was to prioritize my career growth so I would have more capital to invest. I'm going to be honest with you, sis. You cannot invest aggressively and retire early if your income is stagnant. So, in order to fund an aggressive 10-year strategy, you will need more capital to invest. And when you're in your 40s, that means you've had 15 to 20 years of professional corporate experience. Now it's time for you to pop your collar and leverage that experience. You need to be negotiating your raises. You need to be switching jobs for a big salary bump, or you can start a business, start a side gig, and create your own extra income. And I know you're probably rolling your eyes at me by now, but girl, you have 2 decades of expertise. So I need you to stop playing small and stop acting like you're an entry-level employee. I want you to demand your market value. Switch companies if you have to. If your employer doesn't want to pay you more, leave. When it comes to achieving financial freedom, ain't no loyalty with these jobs. And when you change jobs, by the way, make sure you negotiate your salary. When I changed jobs, that is when I got the biggest bump in my salary, at least 20%, sometimes as much as 30%. And another option for you is to turn your corporate skills into a high ticket offer and provide consulting services on the side. But every extra dollar that you earn goes straight into your portfolio to buy your freedom. Which reminds me, the third thing I did was maximize all of my accounts. I mean, I maxed out my 401k, and I don't mean just getting the match. I maxed out my 401k up to the IRS limit. I maxed out my IRA, and I also maxed out my HSA. And by the way, if you didn't know, if you are approaching 50, the government actually helps you fast track your freedom journey. The year you turn 50, the tax code starts to swing in your favor, and you can legally add extra cash into your retirement accounts using what's called catch-up contributions. So these extra contributions, if it goes into your 401k, they're still tax deferred. And if it goes into your Roth IRA, the growth is still tax free. So for example, in 2026, if you are 50 or over, you can contribute an extra $8,000 to your 401k and an extra $1,100 to your IRA. Now, sis, if you are not maxing out all of these catch-up contributions, you are leaving your freedom on the table. Now that we have our target, now that we've increased our income, and now that we're maxing out all of our accounts, child, I wanted to be work optional so that I had the freedom to retire as soon as possible whenever I wanted. And in order to do that, I had to have an aggressive allocation in my portfolio because I wanted maximum growth and compounding speed. So if you are feeling behind or starting late, growth is your friend. Now, I'll be honest. Standard advice says older investors should pivot to safer investments like bonds and hold really large cash positions. Now, if you prefer to be safe, that's okay. But there are also trade-offs. Being safe also means you'll have to keep working longer. In my opinion, safe is for wealth preservation, not wealth building. As for me and my house, I didn't want a conservative portfolio. I wanted to fast track my freedom, so I had to fund an aggressive strategy in order to meet my timeline, which was less than 10 years. So I committed to the process, honey, and I went all in learning about the stock market because I wanted to invest beyond the basics of index funds. And the more I learned about investing and risk management, which is the most important, the more confident I became navigating the stock market. My risk tolerance increased, so I built a portfolio for aggressive growth and I held no bonds and no cash. Other than my emergency fund, I didn't want any cash sitting idle. When you are holding too much cash, inflation eat it up. I was focused on growth, so my portfolio was heavily weighted in high growth ETFs like QQQ. It was heavily weighted in tech stocks, emerging markets, and I even had some international holdings too. So, based on my experience, when you educate yourself on how to buy the top companies in the world and manage risk, the growth from those companies will compound and grow your portfolio while you sleep. So I'm here to tell you an aggressive 10-year strategy to early retirement is possible, but it requires absolute commitment. If you are already over 40, you cannot afford to waste years making beginner investment mistakes. So if you want to stop feeling behind, you have to go all in and consider some of the steps that I took. And if you need help getting started, you can always schedule a wealth clarity call. The link is in the description box. And if you want to watch the prior videos in the Summer Wealth Reset series, watch this video right here. Until next time, friends. Bye for now.